probably think you know the dangers that could come your way. You've seen movies, read headlines, maybe even imagined what you'd do if the world turned upside down. But the truth is, when disaster really hits, it doesn't wait for you to be ready. And it doesn't look like what you saw on a screen. It hits fast, hard, and without mercy. Imagine for a moment that you're sitting at home, lights on, scrolling through your phone, maybe sipping coffee, when suddenly, everything goes black. No power, no phone signal, no Wi-Fi. The silence is heavier than you thought possible. A city of millions instantly paralyzed. That's not fiction. That's one of the most common hazards you might face, a blackout. And it's not just about losing electricity, it's about losing safety, losing access to communication, to food storage, to medical care. A blackout is never just darkness. It's the first domino falling in a chain of collapse. Ask yourself, if this happened right now tonight, would you know what to do? Would you have light, water, food? Or would you be one of the millions stumbling blindly in panic? Hazards aren't polite. They don't send warnings in the mail. They rip through the comfort of your routine when you least expect it. Think about hurricanes sweeping entire neighborhoods into rubble, wildfires consuming homes faster than people can escape, earthquakes splitting highways apart while families scream in the chaos. Every one of these events has something in common. Those who weren't prepared always paid the highest price. And maybe you're telling yourself, I'll deal with it when it comes. But let me be clear. In survival, hesitation kills. You don't get time to rehearse. The moment disaster arrives, the clock starts ticking, and if you haven't prepared in advance, you're already behind. Let me tell you about a man named Carlos. Ordinary guy. He lived through a massive urban blackout that lasted weeks. At first he thought, this will pass. The government will fix it. The power will come back soon. But as days turned into nights, food spoiled in the fridge, water pressure stopped, crime began rising in the streets. He had no generator, no water filters, no extra supplies. By the end of the second week, he wasn't worried about Netflix or his phone battery. He was worried about how to keep his family safe when desperate neighbors started knocking. That's when it hit him. Survival isn't about gear you order after watching a video. It's about preparation you commit to before the storm arrives. And that's exactly why you're here. You're not watching for entertainment. You're here because somewhere deep inside, you know the world is fragile, and you don't want to be one of the helpless when it cracks. And let's be real. Hazards don't only come from nature. Cities themselves are hazards waiting to explode. Think of urban collapse. Supply chains fail, supermarkets empty in hours, riots start, and streets burn with chaos. You've seen the news. Looting, panic, people fighting over water bottles like wild animals. That's not the apocalypse. That's Tuesday after the trucks stop rolling. The system you depend on is so thin, so delicate, that one strike, one disruption, can snap it apart. And when it does, there's no rescue coming quickly. Do you know how long it takes for food supply to run out in your city if trucks stop delivering? 72 hours. That's it. 3 days and shelves are bare. 3 days and your neighbors are desperate. Are you really ready if disaster strikes tomorrow? I want you to feel the weight of this, not because I want to scare you for entertainment, but because this channel is about action. You need to get uncomfortable now so that when the worst happens, you're calm, focused, and already steps ahead of the masses. This isn't theory. It's life or death. The hazards you might encounter are not if, they are when. Earthquakes, tornadoes, cyber attacks, pandemics, nuclear accidents. The list is endless. And every single one of them brings the same truth. You cannot afford to be unprepared. So, as we dive deep into these hazards, I need you to do something right now. If you're serious about surviving, not just curious, hit that subscribe button. Don't just watch and forget. Subscribe, because the information here could be the difference between living and becoming another tragic story. Hit like, not for me, but because it pushes this content out to more people who need to hear it. Maybe even someone who has no idea their world is about to be flipped upside down. And comment, tell me, what's the hazard you fear most? Is it blackout? Is it collapse? Is it disaster tearing through your hometown? Share it. Because when you put your fear into words, you start to face it, and that's the first step toward conquering it. Now let me pull you into a picture you won't forget. It's late summer. The heat has been brutal. Suddenly wildfires erupt across your state. You smell smoke in the air before you even hear the news. Ash starts falling like snow. The sky turns red, the wind howls, and within hours, roads are jammed with thousands trying to flee. But the fire moves faster than traffic. Cars stall. Families abandon vehicles and run, choking on smoke, blinded by flames. This is a hazard you might encounter, and in that moment, what matters is not how tough you think you are, but what you've prepared. Did you have a go bag ready? Did you know an alternate escape route when the main road was blocked? Did you pack masks to filter the smoke? Or are you one of those caught by surprise, realizing too late that you left everything behind because you thought you'd never face such a nightmare? Survival isn't about strength, it's about foresight. This is why we're here together, you and I. Because I'm not going to let you be the one who shrugs, laughs it off, and then freezes when the real thing arrives. No, you're going to be sharp, ready, and armed with the knowledge others refuse to face. Hazards are out there. They are real. And in the next parts of this video, I'm going to break down the dangers in detail, show you stories that will shake you, and give you the hard lessons that separate survivors from victims. But before we go deeper, ask yourself one more time. If the lights went out tonight and didn't come back, if sirens screamed and panic filled the streets, would you be ready? Or would you be begging for help that never comes? You already know now that hazards don't knock politely. They break the door without warning. But let's go deeper, because understanding what you're really up against is the foundation of survival. Let's talk about the hazards that most people underestimate, the ones that don't make Hollywood movies, but that destroy lives just as effectively as any fire or flood. I'm talking about water contamination, pandemics, cyber attacks, and infrastructure collapse. These don't explode in your face like a bomb, but they creep, they spread, they suffocate your normal life until you realize you're trapped inside a crisis with no clear exit. Picture this. You wake up one morning, turn on your tap, and the water looks fine. You drink it, you shower, you make coffee. Hours later, hospitals start filling with patients suffering nausea, cramps, fevers. The water supply has been contaminated, maybe by a broken pipeline, maybe by something more sinister. Authorities issue a warning, but by then, hundreds of thousands have already been exposed. Supermarkets sell out of bottled water in minutes. The shelves are stripped bare and desperate people start fighting each other for the last case of water bottles. Think carefully. How long would you last if your city's tap water was poisoned tomorrow? Do you have filters, purification tablets, a backup supply? Or would you join the mob, clawing for scraps, putting your life at risk just for a single gallon of clean water? This is why I keep saying, preparation is not a hobby, it's survival. And then there's the invisible enemy, pandemics. We've all lived through one recently, but what you experienced may have only been a preview. Imagine a virus with higher mortality spreading faster, hitting harder. Airports shut down, borders close, shelves empty, streets echo with fear. People you know vanish behind locked hospital doors, never to return. Supplies of masks, gloves, and medicines evaporate within days. The world doesn't collapse with explosions. It collapses with silence, with quarantines, with the quiet hum of fear when no one dares to step outside. The hazard of pandemics isn't just illness. It's panic, it's social unraveling, it's governments struggling to maintain order as fear spreads faster than the virus itself. Are you prepared to self-isolate for weeks with no resupply? Do you have enough food, water, medicine, and the mental strength to endure? Or are you still hoping someone else will take care of it? Let me tell you, when the next one comes, help will not arrive fast enough. It never does. But survival hazards aren't just natural or biological. They are digital. Picture a cyber attack on your country's power grid. One day everything works. The next, the grid is down, and not just for a few hours. Days pass, then weeks. Banks freeze, ATMs go dark, traffic lights stop, hospitals scramble, and chaos bleeds into every street. A single cyber strike can trigger a chain reaction that feels like the end of the world. And the worst part? You won't even know who to blame or when it will end. In that silence, in that collapse, you will see who is prepared and who is not. Those with cash, food, batteries, radios, they keep moving. Those without, they beg, they steal, they die. Which side will you be on? Let me tell you a true story. In 2017, a ransomware attack called WannaCry spread across the globe in just hours, locking systems in hospitals, businesses, governments. Imagine that multiplied by 100, aimed not just at computers, but at entire infrastructures, water, electricity, food supply chains. That's not science fiction. That's reality waiting for its moment. And when it comes, the hazard is not the virus in the code, it's the collapse of everything you thought was reliable. This is why I'm speaking to you directly. You cannot trust systems to always work. You need backup. You need alternatives. You need survival mindset. Now, I want you to lean in and think about something darker, something most people can't even bring themselves to picture: nuclear hazards. Maybe not full-blown nuclear war, but accidents, leaks, meltdowns. Chernobyl wasn't just history, it was a warning. Fukushima wasn't just Japan's tragedy, it was a lesson for the entire world. Radiation doesn't care about your neighborhood, your income, your plans. It spreads invisible, silent, deadly. When a nuclear accident strikes, evacuation zones open, panic erupts, roads jam, and suddenly, people are left with a single terrifying question. Stay and risk exposure, or leave and risk chaos. Do you know what to do if the sirens wailed tonight? Do you even have potassium iodide tablets in your home? Most people don't, and that's why most people are victims. You're not here to be like most people. You're here to prepare. So let's pause. I need to ask you directly, are you really ready if disaster strikes tomorrow? If the lights go out, if water turns poisonous, if hospitals close, if your city descends into riots, what's your plan? Don't shrug this off. Commit right now. Say to yourself, I will not be helpless. And if you're with me, prove it. Subscribe right now. Smash that like button because survival isn't just knowledge, it's community. Every like and comment spreads this message to others who need it. Tell me in the comments, what hazard terrifies you the most? Floods, fires, pandemics, blackouts? Say it, claim it, because facing fear is the first step to defeating it. And if you're still listening, you already feel it. The pull of urgency, the fire of responsibility. Hazards are endless, and in this series, we will dive into them all. But before we end this block, I want to leave you with a scene you won't forget. Picture an ordinary city street. Children playing, shops open, people sipping coffee outside. Everything feels safe. And then, without warning, the ground shakes violently. Buildings sway, glass shatters, power lines crash onto the pavement. In seconds, the cheerful sound of life turns into screams, alarms, chaos. That's an earthquake striking with no warning. Within minutes, people are trapped under rubble, roads are destroyed, fires ignite. And in the middle of that, what do? Do you panic frozen? Or do you know exactly where to move, how to shelter, how to survive those first deadly moments? That's the difference between a victim and a survivor, and that's the difference this channel is here to create. So stay with me. We've only just begun scratching the surface of the hazards waiting for you. In the next part, I'm going to take you even deeper into scenarios that will test your imagination and push you to face hard truths. And by the time we finish, you won't just be a watcher. You'll be a survivor in the making. Hazards are everywhere, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right moment to strike. Some you can see coming, some you can't. But all of them can destroy your normal life in minutes if you're not ready. The first step of survival is awareness, and that means knowing exactly what kind of dangers you might face, how to recognize the warning signs, and how to prepare before it's too late. Let's start with the ones nature throws at us. Hurricanes. You've seen the images? Entire neighborhoods underwater, rooftops ripped away, cars floating like toys. Hurricanes are predictable in the sense that you often see them days in advance on the news. But here's the reality. When the order to evacuate comes, the highways clog instantly, gas stations run dry, and panic sets in. If you wait for the official warning, you're already behind. The hazard isn't just the storm, it's the chaos before and after. The way to identify it? Watch the weather, yes, but also watch the movement of people, the long lines at gas stations, the empty shelves in stores. Those are your early signs. Preparation means having go bags packed, routes planned, and supplies ready long before the storm appears on the radar. Then there are floods. Unlike hurricanes, floods can strike almost anywhere, often without warning. Heavy rains, broken dams, rising rivers. You might think you're safe because your street has never flooded before. But water doesn't respect history. When it rises, it takes everything in its path. The early signs are subtle: unusual rainfall forecasts, overflowing drains, rising creek levels. Preparation means knowing your evacuation points, having waterproof storage for essentials, and most importantly, never underestimating water. A few inches can sweep away vehicles. A few feet can erase entire neighborhoods. Now earthquakes, the silent killers. They give no warning. No storm on the horizon, no rising river. Just normal life, then suddenly the ground tears itself apart beneath your feet. The hazard here isn't just collapsing buildings. It's fire from broken gas lines, its infrastructure crippled, its roads split in half. The only way to identify this hazard is by acknowledging that if you live in a seismic zone, it's not a question of if, but when. Preparation is about reinforcing your home, securing heavy furniture, knowing safe spots to shelter, and having emergency kits ready. Those who prepare live, Those who laugh it off often don't. Wildfires. They begin with a spark, sometimes natural, sometimes careless, sometimes deliberate. If you smell smoke in the distance, if the air feels hotter and heavier, if ash begins to fall like snow, you're already in danger. Fires move faster than you think, fueled by wind, and they don't wait for you to finish packing. The hazard here is not just the flames, but the speed, the smoke, the blocked roads, the panic of entire towns evacuating at once. Preparation is about defensible space around your home, masks for smoke, knowing at least 2 escape routes, and never ignoring those first faint signs of fire in the air. But nature isn't the only enemy. Society itself is fragile. Economic collapse. Imagine your bank freezing your account overnight. The ATM won't give you cash, the card won't swipe, and panic spreads as people realize their digital money is just numbers on a dead screen. The signs? Market instability, political unrest, inflation climbing out of control. Preparation means having cash reserves, tradable goods, and skills that people will need when money loses its value. Survival isn't only about food and water. It's about resilience when systems crumble. Civil unrest, riots, looting, protests that spiral out of control. You've seen the footage. Streets on fire, stores smashed open, chaos pouring into neighborhoods. The signs are there. Growing tension in the news, political polarization, angry crowds swelling larger each week. If you think it won't happen here, think again. Preparation means situational awareness, avoiding hotspots, securing your home, and having the means to defend yourself if law and order vanish overnight. And then, of course, blackouts, grid failures. The lights flicker, then die, and don't come back. The first sign might be small, an unusual surge, outages spreading across neighborhoods, reports of grid instability. If it stretches into hours, you're already in the danger zone. Preparation here means more than flashlights. It's about backup power, generators, fuel, candles, radios, and a plan for keeping food and medicine from spoiling. Remember, the first night of a blackout is inconvenient. By the third, it's dangerous. By the 10th, it's survival of the fittest. But the hardest hazards to see are the ones that arrive quietly. Cyber attacks, supply chain failures, contaminated water, diseases. How do you identify them early? By paying attention to small shifts in your environment. Shelves emptying faster than usual, news reports of strange illnesses, warnings about malware, sudden changes in government tone. Most people ignore these signals until they explode. Survivors notice them and act early. Now I want to challenge you. Think about where you live. What are the hazards that stalk your area? Are you in a flood zone? Do wildfires hit your region each summer? Are you in an earthquake belt? Or near a nuclear plant? Or in a city that could erupt into riots if the wrong spark ignites? Stop pretending it's someone else's problem. Hazards are personal. They will hit where you are, when you least expect. Preparation starts with brutal honesty, admitting your vulnerabilities. And this is where I need you to commit. If you've been nodding along thinking, yeah, that makes sense, but doing nothing, you're already falling into the trap of the unprepared. Don't just watch, act. Hit subscribe now, because every week we dive deeper into hazards, strategies, and survival tactics that could save your life. Smash like so that this message spreads, because awareness isn't just about you. It's about creating a community that refuses to be victims. And comment below, what hazard are you preparing for first? Tell me, because the act of writing it down is your first step in facing it head on. Before we move to the next part, let me leave you with a chilling scenario. It's winter. Snow covers the city. Power goes out. At first you think it's temporary, but then hours turn into days. Heat is gone. Pipes freeze. Families huddle together, burning furniture just to stay warm. Food supply dwindles. Outside, the cold kills silently, faster than hunger, faster than thirst. This is a hazard, cold itself, merciless and unforgiving. Can you identify it early? Yes, the moment you hear reports of rolling blackouts during storms, the moment you see the snow piling, the moment you realize temperatures are dropping below survival levels. And preparation? It's layers of clothing, backup heating sources, insulated shelters, and the will to fight through the freeze. Those who prepare survive. Those who don't last long. That's the truth about hazards. They're many. They're merciless, but they're not unbeatable. If you see them, name them, and prepare for them, you turn from prey into predator. You turn from victim into survivor. Survival is never just theory. It's lived, it's bloody, it's terrifying, and it's real. Let me take you into stories. Some from history, some from real disasters, some hypothetical but rooted in truth. that reveal what happens when hazards meet humans. These are the lessons carved in pain, and they will decide whether you walk out alive or not. Let's go back to Hurricane Katrina 2005. New Orleans drowned underwater. Levees broke, neighborhoods were swallowed, and chaos reigned. Thousands were trapped on rooftops begging for rescue. Supermarkets were looted, hospitals overwhelmed, bodies floating in the streets. And here's the brutal reality. Many didn't die from the storm itself. They died from lack of preparation. No evacuation plan, no supplies, no backup communication. Families separated, lost in the flood. Now compare that with those who had bug-out bags ready, those who had family meeting points established, those who didn't wait for government orders but left before the highways clogged. They survived, while others clung desperately to broken promises of help. The lesson: don't wait for someone else to save you. Another story, the 2011 earthquake and tsunami in Japan. Entire towns swept into the sea. Power plants crippled, triggering the Fukushima nuclear disaster. Some communities had practiced evacuation drills, had high ground mapped, had systems in place. Those people moved fast and lived. Others hesitated, waiting for confirmation, thinking they had more time. Minutes made the difference between life and death. Hesitation kills. Preparation saves, always. Now imagine a blackout scenario. Not history, but a very possible tomorrow. A city of 10 million suddenly without power. At first, laughter, inconvenience, candles lit at dinner. But after 2 days, panic. Gas stations run out of fuel. Grocery stores stripped clean. ATM machines dead. After a week, the water stops flowing. The sewage backs up. The hospitals collapse under the weight of desperation. In one apartment, a family of 4 has nothing but expired food and bottled soda. They argue, they panic, they wait for help that never comes. In another apartment, just down the block, another family calmly uses a portable stove, rotates their water supply, charges radios on solar panels, and stays secure behind reinforced doors. Same hazard, different outcome. Why? Preparation. But let me give you a more personal story, one that will chill you. A hiker named Matthew once went into the mountains with friends. Weather forecast looked fine, just cold. He packed light. No extra food, no emergency shelter, no fire-starting tools. Halfway through, a storm hit out of nowhere. Whiteout conditions, freezing winds. His group split up in confusion. Matthew spent the night exposed, shivering, wet, and unprepared. When rescuers found him, it was too late. Just miles away, another group of hikers had faced the same storm. But they had layered clothing, bivy sacks, fire kits. They hunkered down, rationed food, and walked out alive the next morning. Same hazard. One group dead, one group alive. The difference? Preparation. Do you see the pattern? Hazards don't discriminate. Floods, quakes, blackouts, fires, they hit rich, poor, strong, weak, young, old. The hazard doesn't care, but your preparation. That's the deciding factor. Let me throw you into a nightmare scenario. Imagine being in a high-rise city apartment when civil unrest erupts outside. At first it's chants, protests, people waving signs. Hours later, windows smash, fires light up the night, mobs swarm the streets. You hear sirens, then gunshots. Elevators stop working as the power grid strains. The hazard isn't just the crowd, it's the breakdown of order, the thin line between civilization and chaos ripping apart. If you're not prepared, if you don't have food stored, water hidden, a safe room, a way out, you're trapped in a tower, waiting for trouble to climb the stairs. But if you are prepared, if you've planned escape routes, if you've fortified your door, if you've networked with neighbors who are serious about defense, then you're not a victim, you're a survivor in the making. This is why I keep repeating it. Survival is not entertainment. It's not just about watching videos. It's about acting on them. Every hazard we've talked about has real examples, real victims, and real survivors. And the gap between them is preparation. So if you're still here, ask yourself, which side do you want to be on? The ones crying for help or the ones standing strong, ready for anything? If you choose survival, then subscribe now. Don't wait. Do it, because the information that's coming next is going to dig even deeper into what you need to know. Hit like so this message doesn't die in silence. And comment below, which of these stories shook you the most? Katrina, Fukushima, the blackout? Tell me, because facing fear is the beginning of courage. Now let me end this block with a cliffhanger, because what's coming next is darker, harder, and more urgent. You've seen how hazards can drown cities, burn forests, crush buildings, and collapse grids. But what about the hazard inside yourself? What about panic, denial, hesitation, the mental traps that kill faster than hunger or thirst? In the next part, we'll uncover the most dangerous hazard of all, the human mind unprepared for chaos. Every hazard we've talked about so far, storms, fires, blackouts, floods, comes from the outside. But there's one hazard more dangerous than all of them combined, one that lurks inside every single person, the human mind when it fails under pressure. When disaster strikes, it isn't always the fire or the flood that kills first. It's panic, it's denial, it's hesitation. The mind unprepared becomes its own worst enemy. Think about it. In every disaster story, you'll find people who could have lived, who had a chance, but they froze. They told themselves, this can't be happening. Even as the water rose, even as the flames closed in, even as the ground shook beneath their feet. That's denial, one of the deadliest hazards you'll ever encounter. When your brain refuses to accept reality, every second wasted is a step closer to death. Survivors act fast. Victims delay. The difference is mental preparedness. Then there's panic. Pure, unfiltered fear. Imagine a crowded theater when someone yells, "Fire." Most people don't calmly walk to the exits. They stampede, they push, they trample. In disasters, panic makes people run the wrong direction, waste precious energy, make fatal mistakes. A flood victim once survived by climbing to higher ground. His neighbor, blinded by panic, tried to drive through rushing water and was swept away. Same hazard, two minds, two outcomes. Which one are you training to be? But the mind has another trap, overconfidence. The voice that says, "I'll be fine, I don't need to prepare. I can handle it." That's arrogance, and it's lethal. Strong bodies don't always survive. Prepared minds do. People with the best gear in the world die because they thought the hazard wouldn't touch them. Meanwhile, people with little more than grit, knowledge, and a plan walk away alive. Never underestimate hazards. Never assume you're above danger. Survival starts with humility. So how do you prepare your mind? First, knowledge. The more you know about hazards, the less power they have to paralyze you. When you've already pictured the scenario, when you've already rehearsed your response, your brain doesn't freeze, it executes. Second, drills. Don't just imagine, practice. Evacuation routes, fire drills, blackout nights where you live without power for 24 hours. These aren't games. They're training for your nervous system, conditioning your mind to stay calm when chaos strikes. Third, mindset. A survivor's mindset is simple. I will not quit. I will adapt. I will live, no matter what. That mental anchor is what pulls you through when your body is screaming to give up. There's a story from a plane crash in 1987. Survivors described how, in the seconds after impact, smoke filled the cabin and fire spread. Most passengers sat frozen in their seats, unable to move, unable to think. They weren't trapped, they were paralyzed by shock. The few who had mentally rehearsed escape routes, who had studied the safety card, who had pictured themselves unbuckling and running, they got out. The rest didn't. The hazard wasn't just the fire, it was the mind that failed to act. Another example, mountaineers trapped in a sudden blizzard. The unprepared panicked, wasted energy, screaming, running blindly, burning calories they couldn't replace. The prepared sat down, built snow shelters, conserved energy, and focused on each step of survival. Same storm, same hazard. The only difference was mental control. And here's the harsh truth. In the apocalypse, in collapse, in disasters, the real battlefield is your mind. Hunger is brutal, thirst is merciless, cold is unforgiving. But it's your willpower, your discipline, your ability to control fear that decides who makes it through. You can stockpile all the gear in the world, but if you break mentally, if you freeze, it won't save you. So let me ask you directly, are you training your mind right now? Or are you letting comfort, distraction, and laziness dull your survival instinct? Be honest. Because every time you ignore that voice that tells you to prepare, every time you laugh off the possibility of collapse, you're feeding the deadliest hazard of all, denial. Don't be that person. Train yourself. Picture scenarios. Face them in your mind until they no longer scare you into paralysis. Make survival your reflex. If you're serious, I want you to commit right now. Hit subscribe because this isn't just about knowledge. It's about training your brain week after week to think like a survivor. Smash like if you know the mind is the strongest weapon in any apocalypse. And tell me in the comments, what's your greatest mental challenge? Panic? Fear? Hesitation? Name it, because naming it is the first step to controlling it. And before we move to the final block, let me leave you with this thought. Imagine the world collapsing, sirens wailing, people screaming, chaos erupting. You look around and see fear in every face. But in your eyes, there's something different. Calm, focus, determination. Because you've already walked this moment in your mind 100 times. You've already faced the hazard within. While others crumble, you move with clarity. While others beg for help, you become the one who leads. That is survival. That is the power of a prepared mind. In the next and final part, we'll bring everything together. You'll see how every hazard, external and internal, connects into one truth. And you'll walk away with a blueprint to not just survive, but to thrive when the world falls apart. You've walked with me through fire, flood, blackout, collapse, riot, storm, and silence. You've seen the hazards nature throws at us, the chaos society breeds, the traps of the human mind. And now you know the truth. Survival isn't a hobby. It's not something you think about when it's convenient. It's a way of life. Because the hazards are coming, not someday, not maybe, but sooner than you think, in ways you can't predict, in moments that will test every fiber of your being. Picture it one last time. The night is quiet. You're home. The city hums outside, traffic moving, people laughing, lights glowing. It feels safe. But then, the lights flicker and die. Silence, darkness. Minutes turn into hours. The phones stop. The water stops. The shelves empty. Fear spreads. That is how it begins. Hazards don't arrive with fireworks. They arrive in silence, in small failures that cascade into collapse. And when that moment comes, you will either be ready or you will be prey. But here's the hope. You don't have to be a victim. You can prepare. You can train your mind. You can gather the tools, the knowledge, the skills. You can be the one your family turns to when the world falls apart. You can be the survivor. That's why you're here. That's why you've listened through every second of this. Because deep inside, you know comfort is an illusion. And strength comes from preparation. Now it's time for you to act. Don't just watch this and move on. Hit that subscribe button right now, because every new video is another weapon in your arsenal, another step toward survival, another chance to prepare before it's too late. Smash the like button, not for me, but because it spreads this message to others who are still asleep, people who don't realize how fragile their world really is. Comment below. Tell me what hazard you're preparing for. What fear drives you? What lesson hit hardest? And most importantly, share this video with someone you care about. Because what good is survival if the people you love are unprepared? Share it now. Wake them up. Give them the chance to survive too. And I want to leave you with this final question. The one that should burn in your mind long after this video ends. Are you really ready if disaster strikes tomorrow? If your answer is no, then you know exactly what to do. Start preparing today. Start building your survival mindset. Start here, with this community, with this channel. Because when the apocalypse comes, and it will, you'll either be the one leading others through the chaos, or the one lost in it. The choice is yours. So subscribe, like, comment, share. Take the knowledge, use it, and commit to it. Because the hazards are real, the dangers are coming, and survival belongs to those who prepare. This is not the end, it's just the beginning. Stay sharp, stay ready, and I'll see you in the next video.